chicken scallopini with mushroom and marsala. Hey, I gotta tell you, every time I think about this dish, it reminds me of my old days at the farm with my grandma. First thing you need to learn how to do is how to cut the chicken to make the scallopini. I like to cut it roughly in same slices, which we're going to pound into scallopini. But the one thing that you need to do is be careful when you pound. So let me show you exactly what I do. This is a tool that you're going to love. Why? One of the biggest problems that I had pounding the chicken, I was slips all over the place. The technique is that as you see the chicken expanding, you can pull down and pull through. This combination sandwich in between two pieces of plastic is basically protecting you. And as it protects you, it gives you the ability to see exactly what you're looking at without having to worry how the chicken is slippery and sliding all over the board. Now, we have the pieces that I would like to go ahead and cook, but before we cook them, the one thing that I want to do is to flavor and flour them. What I have in here is what I refer to as the Nick's Magic Rub. This is a mixture in equal parts of salt, pepper, brown sugar, onion powder, garlic powder, paprika. When it comes to the flour, be gentle. You just want to lightly coat it. And then before we cook it, you need to shake off the extra flour. If you don't shake off the extra flour, this flour will fall in the oil as we cook it and it will burn. So there you are. Every time you deal with raw chicken, the most important thing that you do before you move on to anything else involving the recipe is to clean your tools and your hands. And now, we're ready to cook these. In the making of the scallopini, you need to know when the oil is hot. And how do you do it, especially when you're using a pan like this that has a black bottom? Here's a piece of mushroom. I place it in here, and what this mushroom is going to do for us is going to tell us when the oil is hot enough to sear the scallopini. Why? Why is this important? More often than not, people make mistakes by actually putting the scallopini into the cold oil. And they ask themselves, what is this going to come to temperature? And as you can see, the mushroom is starting to show the fact that it's nice and hot. There's a bit of bubbling going around. And at this point, you count down to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. I know, it feels like I'm in Houston and we're putting on a missile up in the sky. You ready? Here we go. Remember one thing, when you lay down the scallopini, always lay them so that the tip of it pushes away from you. You notice that if I was to let it go, it would splash the oil over there. Why is this important? It is important because many times I did not pay attention to my own advice, and instead the oil splashed over me. So now this is a particularly good sized scallopini. I'm gonna do the same thing, and off it goes on the other side. You can take the mushroom now, it's giving the proof. You can hear the sound, and here we go. I'll let the scallopini cook until they're brown on one side. As we turn them, you see some of the brown points that we picked up on the outside. These are very important because they give us a sense that the meat is searing exactly the way we want it. Why is this important? As you can see, the scallopini, in spite of the fact that I pounded them in pain, right now they're plumping up. The searing on one side is forcing all the juices, all the water inside the scallopini, trying to go to the other side. Within the same context of what's happening right now, you see them plump up because now we're searing the bottom of it. But remember, we're not cooking them all the way through, so at this point, it would not be safe for you to actually take the scallopini out and eat them. You want to cook them for a total amount of a few minutes, anywhere between 5 and 6, but some of that time has to be inside the sauce. So the high heat is giving us exactly what we want. At this point, it's good enough for me, and I do two things. Turn up the heat underneath, and I move the scallopini to a clean dish. There's too much oil in there to make the sauce. The sauce will be a bit greasy. So one of the things that I like to do, I like to lift the pan and pour most of the oil here on the inside. Now, one of the things that I want to show you is, you see all these brown bits in here? Most people will look at them and says, oh my gosh, it's a problem. That's not a problem. This is flavor for us. So we input about a tablespoon and a half of oil back into the pan. We wait for this oil to get nice and hot, and then we'll proceed with the beginning of the making of the sauce. This is known as a pan sauce. The oil is getting nice and hot, and here's when we start introducing our mushrooms. What mushroom should you use? You can use any kind of mushrooms you want. These beach mushrooms are the one that I love. Why? First, they have the shape of a tiny mushroom. They look like comic book mushrooms. And I discovered them lately. They're mostly used in Asian cuisines, but in my opinion, are a fantastic asset to this dish. You just want to let them go. Together, I'm also going to put some shiitake mushrooms, which are sliced nice and thick. As the mushrooms are cooking, they're also getting connected to the flavors left behind by the chicken. What's important about a pan sauce, and what is a pan sauce? One of the things that I want to do is to show you how simple it is to make great dishes. And great dishes do not require classical sauces that take many, many hours for reduction, clearing, degreasing. I showed you to do that, you know how. But this is something fun that you can make for your family, for your friends, with ingredients that you find in your local supermarkets. Techniques as easy as 1, 2, 3. So let me walk you through this point. Here, we want to ensure that our good friends are sauteing nicely. Look at the coloring that we're starting to pick up. This coloring that we have right here, this is flavor. But this flavor is gonna go somewhere else. It's a mixture I have of paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and believe it or not, brown sugar. Well, salt and pepper is the easiest way. So if you do salt and pepper, you're doing nothing wrong. But what these elements do have is what I refer to as the constant struggle between yin and yang. It's been for me extremely successful, and I would like to show you how wonderful this is. The coloring that we have on them is splendid. And now we go with a little bit of chopped onion. And when I say a little bit, we just want to have a tiny amount like this. And you can use shallots if you want to, instead of white onion. But I feel the white onions are perfect. You see how fine I cut them? I want them to melt into the sauce, almost in a way in which you will not see them. You've always seen me cook with garlic that I slice nice and thick. But when you're cooking with something like this on high heat, fast and quick, then what you want to do is to chop the garlic. The garlic will cook within a matter of a few moments. But also as it does that, it puts out a flavor into this very base of the sauce, which is fantastic. This is parsley, but you can use any kind of fresh herbs. This is really the base of our sauce, but how do we go from these dry mushrooms and how do we turn this mushroom combo into a sauce? And here is where it becomes beautiful. Marsala wine. Marsala wine is a sweet Sicilian wine, mostly used for an after-dinner drink. What we're doing in this particular case, two things. We're stirring very aggressively to dislodge the brown bits that have gotten caught up at the bottom of the pan. Next thing we do is chicken stock. We're gonna bring this to a boil again, and as it reaches a boil, we're gonna reinsert the chicken scallopini into the sauce. You want to keep them in here at this point on medium heat. Why? It's a gentle reheating of the scallopini. The temperature is going to go through all the way. The scallopini are absorbing some of the sauce, and you see on the coloring they're picking up. The chicken scallopini pretty much gotten to where I want them to go. Let's now take them out. And here comes the magic. I'm going to lower the heat a little bit more. And now I'm going to emulsify the butter into the sauce. Our only thickener in this sauce is the butter. All that you need to do is just butter. Look at this. The butter alone, look at the thickness that this has as it comes down. Just splendid, beautiful, fantastic. That's it. The sauce is made. Scallopini are ready. Let me show you how to plate it. The Marsala, by the way, for me is a memory of Sicily. I know that. It's me going back in time. To me, it's a revival of a recipe that is as old as the world, as far as I'm concerned. Something that was quite popular in my house. But the thing that really I wanted to do, the great exercise that I wanted to put into place is to show you what easy is to make some wonderful, simple dishes with common ingredients that you find at the supermarket. When it comes to cooking, the most important thing is not how expensive the ingredients are. The most beautiful thing when you cook is the passion that you have. Dear friends, and this is how you make scallopini with a mushroom and Marsala sauce.